Zerg versus Protoss on Newkirk Precinct. Let's give my opponent the GLHF, after which I'm going to be setting up my hotkeys here very shortly. There we go. That's F2, F3, F4, and my main is going to be F1. So I can quickly jump in between the different camera positions. Regardless though, Zerg versus Protoss, and I believe my opponent's nickname is Say Cheese, and he's even in Clan Swiss. Generally speaking, ever since the Adept got nerfed just a couple of days ago, I've noticed that Protoss players have not been flinching away from their 2-base all-ins. This is usually what happens whenever one of the races get nerfed in StarCraft 2. Seems like people get a little bit of, a little bit offended or whatever, and they decide to start playing far more aggressive than they absolutely need to. After which, eventually their win rates go down, and they figure they should probably try their hand at macro once again. It's only been about a week or two right now, ever since the nerf to the Adept. I think it's been about that long. But one of the things I did most definitely notice is that a lot of Protoss players currently are really enjoying their 2-base all-ins. And for good reason as well. I mean, they've always been great build orders. And one of the things as well to keep in mind is that there are tons and tons of different variations to them. Now, one of the strategies that I've personally been going for a lot is an early game Zergling drop into a very early +1 attack upgrade as well. So my first 100 gas will be Metabolic Boost, which is the Zergling speed. Second 100 gas will be Pneumatized Carapace, which is the Overlord speed. And then the last one is going to be +1 melee upgrades, which I found to be super helpful. Now, of course, it does take 2 to play that game. For all I know, my opponent may already put like 4 barracks right over there. Or 4 gateways, rather. I hope not. That would make for a bit of a boring game. But there may very well, be something along those lines happening at this point in the match. And I'm still zapping away at my natural. Not entirely sure why. But considering he's not moving that probe, he's also not building cannons, right? So I'm probably going to be fine. I'll be following this up with 2 queens here initially. As well as the Zerg, or the Overlord. Yeah, no, rather the Zergling speed first. There we go. And I'll be making sure here to start up my Metabolic Boost. And then very shortly, as soon as I possibly can, I'm going to be switching into... And there's actually a gas geyser down, so nothing too aggressive going on right now. As soon as I can, I will be switching into that very quick Overlord drop shenanigans. So I'll put my Overlord right over there. We'll scout out whether or not that probe is still being annoying. And actually, he's got double gas taken even. Very greedy play there by my opponent. Not going to complain about that, though. I think that's pretty cool. We'll have a quick little look around, see if there's potentially any kind of aggression here from my opponent's probe. See if he could potentially be trying to block my expansions. But there, I am going to be getting myself that 3rd base, as well as the Pneumatized Carapace. It's already in production right now. And I will be able to go for the +1 attack. Now, one of the things I noticed, right, is since the Adept got nerfed from 80 health to 70, they seem far weaker to Zergling Baneling play than in the past. Zerglings are way better at them, and actually we did find that probe, so that's very helpful. They are way better at, like... There we go. They're way better at, like, killing Adepts. And it sounds a little silly, because of course that makes a lot of sense, right? But the +1 attack upgrade seems to have made quite a big change when it comes to this matchup. The Pneumatized Carapace will be finishing up here in just a little bit. I'll be getting my 3rd Overlord here ASAP as well. I don't really want to show him these Zerglings if I can at all. Avoid that. There we go. We'll pull the drones out of the gas right now, get +1 attack started, get that Overlord Morphine started here as well. And I'm gonna follow this up with exclusively workers. So I'm by no means going all in here. I'm just wanting to do some early game aggression here to my opponent with 8 Zerglings only. And this is actually pretty good. So I got +1 attack coming in. I got that 3rd base coming in as well. That's just about to finish up. I will be putting up a safety Spore Crawler in both of my expansions. But we're going to start doing some aggressive moves here to my opponent. And this is really annoying for a Protoss player to deal with. Like, this is just going to slow them down a ton. I'm going to follow this up with the drones back into the gas. And I'm just trying to zap away here as much as I possibly can. So my opponent apparently has opened up rather aggressively here as well. But I've already slowed him down a lot. We know exactly what's going on. So I'll actually be able to get myself another queen here in the natural too. Trying to bait another Photon Overcharge. There we go. Got that one down as well. And I'll actually just start up a whole lot more queens. Queens are super good at killing stuff in general. In particular in the earlier stages of the game. As long as I get creep spread to my different bases, that is, of course. So I spend up some energy there as well to get myself that next creep tumor down. Spore Crawler just about to finish over there. After this queen spawns, I'll be switching into +1... Or rather, +1 layer. That's not a thing, Lowko. I'll be switching into some more units here as well. And we're getting ourselves the lair right now, which should make life a little bit easier. There we go. And there we have it. So that should be a really solid early game play here. In the sense that my opponent isn't going to be capable of really countering me here. And I'm going to be able to drone up here. So, I'm leaving a couple of links out on the map. Main reason is that I want to scout out whether or not my opponent is going to be getting aggressive here himself. If he plans on taking a third base or if he's making a lot more units. We'll also keep on scouting here to see if there's anything else fishy going on. I'll put the Overlords at those bases too. And I'll start up more and more gas as well as +1 missile. I'm trying to see what's up right now. Not really seeing a whole lot, which is fine by me. I'll start spreading some more creep, but mostly I'm building up that economy. Now, I am, of course, losing a few Overlords here and there, which is a little annoying. But I can be switching here into one of the most comfortable early game strategies, or mid-game strategies, I guess is what it would be. And that is Hydralisks in combination with Zerglings as well as Banelings. It's a really, really solid strategy. So notice right here, right? A lot of people don't consider the Queen, really, when it comes to early game play, but honestly, the Queen is probably one of your best early game tools for keeping the Protoss player contained, and the same actually can be said for Protoss versus, or rather, for Zerg versus Terran as well. Okay, so he's trying to get a third. Let me try and get that. Just trying to slow him down. I'm also going to be getting my fourth base here. So notice, right? Build a bunch of Zerglings in the early game. Slow down my opponent's economy. Made queens here to defend against any kind of imminent aggression. And while I did not get that thing just yet, I may be able to get it here. Woo, nice. Very good. Gonna get myself the Hydra upgrade. And I'll scout out what my opponent's follow-up is going to be here as well while pumping out those Hydralisks. So I've established 3-base economy right now, which is a really big deal. That allows you to really start properly pumping out units. I've established a bigger economy here than my opponent, which is also an important thing to note. And I'm also spreading quite a bit of creep now as well that I can use to potentially even move my queens with across the map as well. I do want to get around more workers here at my third base if I can at all, just for the... Oh, he's going to be switching into... No, actually, ooh. Are those Tempests? Wow, alright. I haven't seen those in a while. I think actually going pure Hydra Queen here is not even that bad of a choice. I'm going to need a few more workers for that base, just because I need roughly 70 or so to make non-stop units here. But my opponent is most definitely planning to switch into either Carrier or Mass Tempest or anything along those lines here in just a bit. So if I can push across the map with Queens as well as Hydralisk, I should be in a very, very powerful position. The nice thing about playing aggressive here is that this will also force my opponent to simply sit back. If he cannot harass with Void Rays, that makes life way easier for me as well. So there we go. Gotta get myself a couple of links here as well so I can switch into some additional Banelinks. Remember, I got my Baneling speed as well, which of course gives it also some more sustain in the sense that it gets more health. Gotta be a little careful here for potential motherships and all that, but I don't think he's gonna be able to get that just yet. And here my Hydras are pushing onwards. Baiting the Photon overcharges. Queens are still moving onwards, they're pretty slow, and I'm also building up more and more units. Trying to hit those transfuses here. Photon overcharges will run down very shortly. And we're just gonna push. So this is a very nice timing attack here. I'm gonna be able to keep my Hydras alive for a very nice amount of time. And the thing about killing Protoss air is that you need to shut it down before it maxes out. At least that's the easiest way. There are ways of countering maxed out air as well, but it's a lot more scary. So right now I'm just slowing down his economy. And we're preventing him from building up that maxed out Protoss ball, which is really what makes this, you know, so terrifying to play against. So I got a lot of workers here, roughly 70 or so if I were to make a guess. We got a lot of creep spread as well. And I think I may even be able to continue onwards with the pressure here for a little while longer. If I can get that cybernetics core, that would be nice too. I think he doesn't even have enough. I may be able to just simply close out the game here. And that's really like, this is all coming down from me opening up with a Zergling drop, right? It just simply bought me a bunch of time. It bought me a bunch of time to add on more and more economy. And it's so nice because I would highly recommend it. I mean, it's very, very easy to execute. And you can just simply counter so many greedy early game plays. Now, generally speaking, if your opponent is opening up with Adepts, and once again, the Adept got nerfed, so Protoss players have all collectively decided to not make a single one of those anymore. For some odd reason. It's not like they're like impossible to make anymore, but Protoss players are just simply not making them, and it puts them in much too greedy of a position if they also decide to not get any Stalkers or anything, you know, that can kill the early game Zerglings with ease in the early part of the game. So here we are in the replay. Now I would say there are two main reasons why you want to go for the Zergling drop shenanigans yourself as well. So the first one is obvious, right? If your opponent is playing overly greedy, which seems to be a thing that a lot of Protoss players are currently doing, just because they don't want to make Adepts because they lost 10 HP, even though they're still really good in the early game, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference in the early game. Protoss players are just straight up refusing to make Adepts right now. Which is a little silly when you think about it, but it will come back. So the first reason to go for the aggression is to try and just simply kill a bunch of probes because your opponent may very well be playing too greedy. The second reason, however, and that is a really important one as well, is that you can scout out your opponent's bases. And that is one of those things that is pretty undervalued, I suppose. So in this particular match, my opponent is playing something really strange, right? But if my opponent would have been playing something a little more similar or a little more straightforward, such as like a single like Stargate into maybe 2 oracles to get some aggression done, or maybe some Archon drops or anything along those lines, I would have been able to scout that out and I would be able to respond accordingly. However, in the off chance that your opponent goes for something really wild, which, you know, my opponent is going for in this match, I will be able to scout it out as well. So first off, we do a bunch of damage. I think I kill about 10 workers or so. Wow, that was a perfect guess. Okay, no, actually I kill more. You know, so first off, I kill a bunch of these probes, which is already very substantial. Already made it way drone, or way pay for itself. But secondly, I scout that something funny is going on, and I've got time here to respond against that aggression. So I would say that's the first phase of this game. So once again, in case you're curious, first 100 gas, Zergling speed, second 100 gas, pneumatized carapace, third 100 gas, and I guess a little prior to that, you build up the Evo chamber, you start up the +1 attack, you morph in that Overlord, drop 8 Zerglings, and then besides that, you drone. As far as my safety spore crawlers go, as you may have noticed, I built 2 of those at a seemingly random time in the game. I built those at the 4-minute mark. I do that pretty much every single game blindly anyway. Once again, not necessarily the ideal and perfect way to play, but you counter so many early game aggressions with it that it's almost like a given and a very, very helpful tool if you are playing anywhere below like top 16 Grandmaster, okay? Which is where I personally am not. I'm not in top 16 Grandmaster, so I feel like I can get away with these double spores here in the early game, or even a third one here as well. And it will allow me to shut this down. Now, I would say at this point, we sort of like entered a second phase of the match, right? First phase was the Zergling drop, second phase is this right here. And what I'm doing is making non-stop workers. I'm basically trying, well, right now I'm building a whole lot of Overlords because it was supply block, but I'm basically trying to establish that massive economy that I am looking for. Because when you think about it, right, I scouted out what my opponent is going for, and this is, I guess, a little bit of experience. If you look at right now, what my opponent has got, he's got 2 Void Rays, a single Oracle, and a Mothership Core. He is not going to be able to do any damage with those whatsoever, as long as I get a bunch of Queens out, right? So I'm going to be totally safe here to make the drones that I want for the remainder of this game, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. So already I'm up to 63, I think I go up to about 70 or so here in total, which is what I was hoping for. Well, I actually get 68, which is fair enough. And then I start producing my units. Now, the moment at which I start producing units, and I guess this would sort of like signify the third phase of this match, is right when I get 3 bases fully saturated. I know my opponent will more than likely be taking a third Nexus right now. I mean, I scouted him posturing to try and take one. I don't think I actually saw that he took it right there. No, I did not, but I have an idea that he more than likely will be trying to take one right now. So as long as I establish that bigger economy, I'm always going to be in a superior position, because I know that for the next couple of minutes, at the very least, I'm going to be getting more income than my opponent, and therefore I can produce more stuff. Now, the stuff that I'm going for in this particular match initially turned out to be Zerglings, Hydras, and Banelings, which is sort of like your go-to most common and most powerful composition for Zerg right now. However, upon seeing that my opponent was still making more and more Stargates, I decided to go for additional Queens and even bring the Queens that I already had along here as well. And at this point, I mean, I think I make 1 round of workers for my 4th base, or it may have already happened. I'm just going to be able to pile on the aggression and more often than not close out the game. So notice right here, by the way, he is indeed going for that Graphiton catapult right here for the carrier, so he was planning to go for the carriers here eventually. But my opponent just simply could not keep up with the economy here, and I can just simply, you know, murder him at this point just by pushing at a very, very strict timing. So notice here, right? It's a pretty, like, calculated and risk-free decision making. I mean, technically speaking, if your opponent is going for that early game Adept pressure, which is very, very uncommon right now, they can counter the Overlord drop just fine. I mean, it's just 8 Zerglings. It's not that terrifying. However, more often than not, it will also you know, give you the scouting information that you need, and you can sort of make the decision how many workers you can get away with, so you can follow up the mid game a lot more aggressively and a lot more stably here as well. Now, of course, one of the other options I would have had here in the earlier stages of the game, if I skip back for just a little bit, is to just simply scout out with an Overlord with speed to see what's going on. I could also try and run with a Zergling right up this ramp and just sort of run that around in the base, right? That would have been a perfect option as well. But I feel like this is much more of like like, I guess sort of like, how do you say that? Like, I don't know exactly what the term for it is, but regardless, this is a much more safe way of doing so, just because it can't really fail. I mean, the Zerglings are gonna come into the main base no matter what. I mean, I don't want to get them surrounded for nothing, and of course, like, you know, lose all of them for nothing, but I'm still gonna be able to get some good information in here. And almost in like every single scenario, and I'm pretty sure there's been not a single game where it doesn't actually, at the very least, like, scout out what's going on. At the very least, you will be able to see what your opponent has got in store for you in that game, so you can decide how many drones you want to make and how many units you can get away with. I guess the last tip for this match is to make more queens. If you're struggling early game, Zerg vs Terran, Zerg vs Protoss, make more queens. They're like a match made in heaven. They don't cost any gas. They are very cheap. They don't cost any larva, so that means you can make more drones. And all things considered, if you are optimizing your mineral income in the early game, you should be able to pump out you know, these beautiful little units that can even keep themselves alive. The only downside to them being that they move slowly off creep, but they can keep each other alive very easily as well. You can use them for pretty much all of your early game purposes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.